Today's conversation might be exciting to some, might be boring to others. It is something that is very often overlooked in the hustle and bustle of visionaries and the team trying to get things out, and that is quality control. So one of the places this gets dropped often, you see things wrong in funnels and pages, you see things wrong in emails, you see things wrong in what people are purchasing. Somebody didn't update the order form. You see things wrong in what people are getting fulfilled upon on what they're purchasing. So it's a big step towards cutting down, yeah, like you said, it kicks up a lot of dust. So cutting down the noise you get downstream with your customer experience team. A lot of it gets solved just by spending extra time and doing some quality control in what you've got going on. The first place I tend to start with quality control is you kind of follow where the customer is going to be going in quality control. So what's the first thing they're going to see is the landing page, the website, the order form. So the big one is just quality control of the pages themselves. And we're looking at things like buttons that don't work, links that don't work, copy. Maybe it's a page that was duplicated from something. I know it's easier to just duplicate than to start fresh. The issue is things get missed that might not have been applied to this thing. And I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of common areas people forget. And we're going to look at ClickFunnels, for example, of some of the places people miss things pretty easily when it comes to duplicating pages and not quality controlling them correctly. So we'll start here with a quick tour, and then we'll move on to other quality controls in area of emails, foresight, downstream, fulfillment, cross-germination of your customers buying products, and maybe having products already, not having access, giving access to too much. So we're going to go ahead and jump in here to our funnel, the Collab Team. So one of the big places you'll miss over here in settings, we got this fun little thing called a favicon URL. You do not know how many times I land on somebody's page only to find out it is a ClickFunnels favicon. And I'm like, this is obviously built in ClickFunnels. So the favicon URL is this little guy here in the corner. Easy one to miss. Either it's going to be blank or it's going to be from the site where you built it. You'll see a Wix favicon. You'll see a Squarespace favicon, a ClickFunnels favicon. If people aren't changing those, it's not that hard to create. I've created some. I'm not a graphics expert, but they're just tiny little images. This one's quite big, so ClickFunnels does reduce it down for you. And they just go up in the corner. So we can see when somebody lands on our site, there's a favicon here, and it's actually a transparent favicon. So it's absorbing my background. I have a purple background. Purple is my favorite color. So it absorbs the background. It doesn't show up with a white background like this one would do. So this is a high class favicon.
High class.
That's a really good one right there. So that's where I like to start with people. People don't even know what a favicon is. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Maybe it's favicon, favicone, but that's where it is. The other thing people don't realize, especially in ClickFunnels, is you do actually have two links. Because of the way ClickFunnels does A and B testing, they give you your target link, and then they give you your destination link. So the target link is where you send people, the destination is where they land. So this one right here that you always see is your target link. This is the one people change because they're like, oh, this is the URL. It looks obvious, but then when you go and click it, it actually changed to welcome. It was welcome home. And so if you're duplicating pages, you end up with very long strings of text. Maybe there's some in here I haven't edited yet. And you find those, I did edit all of these, but you find those down here in the settings. And this gives you the actual path of the page you're working on. And it has to be different than this path. So you can just make it slightly different, schedule. collab schedule. Maybe there are some pages here. Especially if you're duplicating pages, you're going to find out that it duplicated the path. So we might have done a pretty good job on this one.
Well, you did it, so that makes sense.
Sometimes Ben does it, which is great.
I duplicate the pages, but
Here's one. So
there we go.
this is what it looks like. When you don't do it, you end up with this long string of numbers. So it says what experts 1640192823986. So that's how ClickFunnels will automatically do it because they've got 100,000 pages. They're just adding a random set of values on it. So when you go here, it's a non-pretty link. So it doesn't look the best. It doesn't look bad. It's not really going to deter people, but it's one of those steps where people might think it's a little lower than the highest class it could be. So it's like what experts 1640 instead of being /welcome. So that's the other big area I see missed. ClickFunnels or any type of page where it's creating splits are the only ones that'll give you 2 different links. Otherwise, if you're working on a website builder, you only have one spot to add one link. And then if we go into ClickFunnels, the other place you're going to find, especially if you're duplicating a page, down here in SEO metadata, you're going to find the Collab Team, which is the name of the page here, the page header. I often find people are duplicating pages, so the header name is the name of whatever page they duplicated. They forget to change that. You also have this image right here. This image is fun if you've ever texted somebody a link or you paste a link in Slack and it pops up a preview. It's actually getting it from here. So you might have forgotten to update this and it's showing a preview for whatever funnel you duplicated it from. And that's your preview image when it pulls up a preview. So that's another good spot to be double checking.
If you're promoting on Facebook too, if you're like posting it to your feed or whatever, it uses a big preview image too. So you want to kind of make sure that it looks sexy, because if it's something blah, then if someone shares that for you, it's not going to look really great.
And sometimes it'll take a while to refresh. ClickFunnels hosting, like it's not instant. Like it may take 15 minutes, may take 30 minutes. So people have put in the wrong link or the wrong image and then they want you to update it and you update it. They're like, it's still wrong. And it's like, well, you got to wait until all these things refresh and update. So those are kind of the common areas in ClickFunnels where you can kind of get more granular on your quality control and trying to present yourself the best in whatever you're marketing. Because if people are going to poke holes in your stuff and find little nuances with what you're doing, then they might not think you're the expert of what you're trying to provide your customers anymore. Even if you're not an expert page builder, they want you to be an expert at representing yourself in the expert area you are doing. Savannah, you got any more ClickFunnels tips that you've come across?
I don't know about ClickFunnels tricks necessarily. I was just like adding on to what you just said, that like you're branding, the way that you're presenting yourself, it's building that trust before you even present your sale. So if you're not presenting yourself with your best foot forward, then you're already kind of breaking that down before you're even telling them what you're selling them. So it's just important to really kind of set yourself up for success that way. One thing I would note, how you talked about how our high class favicon has a transparent background. That's as simple as saving as a .png versus a .jpeg or JPG. And so it's that simple thing that, like, if you're doing your logos in Canva or what have you, I think you have to be Canva Pro to save as a .png. But just something to keep in mind, it does look a lot nicer that way. I don't know that every hosting site will let you like make that choice, but obviously ClickFunnels does. So save as a PNG when you can with a transparent background.
Awesome. Good tip. Yeah, I've only used Canva once in my lifetime, so I am Canva noob. So thank you for that advice.
It's so good. I recommend it.
Awesome. I leave that stuff up to you though, if it ever comes across for the collab team. Stay in your lane, Taryn. I don't need to be poking around in Canva. So that's a good thing to do from the ClickFunnels side. But if you don't have access to ClickFunnels, if you just want to quality control your own stuff, I'm just going to pull up here. There's a website I have no affiliation with. She was working with somebody I was working with, and I like to click on people's websites. So I haven't gone through this yet, but if this was pretending this is your own website, you're just going to your website. You start by clicking all the buttons on top. Are they taking you to the right place? Do you like that it opened in a new tab? Or do you end up with 5 tabs? If I keep clicking stuff, am I going to end up with 3? Look at that. I've got 4 tabs open just from starting out and clicking this person's website. Do you want that? Or do you want only 1 tab open? So just making sure the links are taking you to the correct spot. These links over here that take you to social media, beware, when you insert that feature into a website, it's actually going to auto-populate with the website's features. So the Facebook button will take you to Wix Facebook, for instance. So if you don't remember to change that or hit save, your Facebook button will go somewhere to not your website. So just clicking all those links, make sure they're okay. And then scrolling down, looking at everything, clicking everything you can, reading all the text, read it out loud, make sure it sounds good. Don't just read it in your head, because you can pass words over. When we're reading in our heads, we can tend to skip every 3rd word if they're easy words. So you're kind of just getting the concept instead of the sentence. And then we've got buttons. So we're just clicking all the buttons, making sure they go places. And then one of the other places you find things being missed is in the footer. So we've got links and footers. Normally you've got the privacy disclaimer, terms and conditions, and sometimes even a contact button. Just making sure those footers are doing what you want them to do. This person's website is pretty good. We've clicked around on a lot of links. Things are looking great. The only thing I would suggest is not everything opening in a new tab, because you do end up with so many tabs. It looks like every single action opens in a new tab. But everything's looking good. And then you do also want to view on mobile. They say something like, I think it's over half now, half of the people are viewing your stuff on their mobile device. And you don't know how many times I've created something and sent it off to the client who's using their phone, because they're not working in an office, they're working on the go. They pull it up on their mobile and they're like, this looks like crap. It's like, oh, forgot to mobile edit it. It looked great in the browser. This guy pulled it up and in 30 seconds tore it all apart.
And that's something to keep in mind too, like depending on what your platform is and what you're selling. Certain, like in my opinion, I don't like ClickFunnels on my phone. Like I feel like I can tell when I'm looking at a ClickFunnels funnel on my phone versus other site hosting. So just something to keep in mind when you're kind of picking like who you're setting up your site through and like where you're selling your stuff, is that is your niche, your group of people, going to be most likely just doing things from their phone? Then maybe you want to pick something that's rated really highly for like mobile optimization. Because yeah, I don't know. Most ClickFunnels funnels that I've looked at on my phone, I don't usually love how they feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and ClickFunnels does give you the mobile view, so you can take a look. And it does a pretty good job, but everybody's phone sizes are different. So this isn't going to be exactly what it looks like on your phone. If you've got a skinny iPhone versus a fat iPhone, it's going to be vastly different. If you got an iPad, some websites are pulling mobile versions, some websites are pulling desktop versions. So you just want to give it a nice look. And then you can make features mobile only versus desktop only. So I could take this huge section here and make it mobile only and optimize this part for just mobile, make it desktop only, in case you are having issues with some formatting on one of those. So that's fun. I love going through sites. I love finding holes to tear apart, just because I know if I can find it, somebody else is going to find it. So it's always fun to find it first and it ends up being like a challenge for me. Like, what can I find wrong? And let's see, I might have a resource, a quality control.
One quality control resource that I'd recommend if you don't have if you're just like a solopreneur or you're a very small team, so you don't have a ton of people to be looking over your copy and everything. One of my favorites is Grammarly. Sorry, I think there's a free version as well. So you don't have to pay for their Cadillac monthly thing. And then just putting basically like every paragraph, everything, running it through Grammarly, it'll catch not only spelling errors, like, anything catches spelling errors these days, but it'll even like suggest better wording. If you've repeated a word, it'll catch those kind of things. So obviously having multiple team members look at it is great because they know your voice and everything. But if you don't have that option, I feel like Grammarly is a really good resource for that.
I did set up, this was a quality control check I was doing for somebody's partner launch. They're duplicating pages for specific individuals, high name individuals. You might recognize first names here, but they wanted me to go through opt-in, follow up everything in the sequence to double check everything. So I take one page, I line out all the steps you can hit in that one page. Correct link, date, time, countdown, copy, images, buttons, form submit, follow-up page, video, so on into the different steps of the funnel. And then I take myself through, and this is me opting in with a different email address. This is a little CRM trick. If you add a plus and then an ending value after your name, it creates you as a new contact in the CRM, but it still sends it to your regular email. So this was still sending to tarynT@thecollabteam.com. but the CRM put me in as tarynT +25@thecollabteam.com. So that way you can test things from a brand new contact as if this contact never existed in the CRM. So especially with affiliate stuff, and you want to make sure affiliate referral tracking is working. So it was just going through, making sure everything was correct on these pages. And if it wasn't, making notes, reaching out to the correct people. And then got to jump in here into, some campaigns. We brought up campaigns briefly. This is an Infusionsoft or Keep. Some campaign here. Some things were put in here as a quality control step is you want to make sure if you've got people, so people are opting in, they're joining a sequence, but this sequence is only for non-buyers. So you want to make sure you've got the quality control steps in of once they do purchase something, they're being pulled out of that automation. And in this situation, they're joining a separate automation. So even just quality controlling of how are the communications working? Are they being sent the right communications? When you opt in, are you getting the correct email? When you purchase, are you getting the correct email? And are you not getting follow-up emails telling you to purchase anymore? So a lot of these automation builders can do things like this. They call them goals. So when a contact reaches a goal, they get removed from that automation, and then you can add them to a different automation. So this is just giving us better foresight downstream of customers get very confused. We've mentioned it before. If you're asking them to buy something they've already purchased, either they're going to purchase it again because they really want it still, and you're going to have to deal with the duplicate refunds, or they're going to reach out and say, I thought I purchased this, what's going on? Where's, and then maybe they don't realize they already got their email, their fulfillment email. So this helps us solve a lot of those pain points. And then that brings us to, and I don't have anything to share for this one, so we're just going to go to screen to some of the fulfillment quality controls. And that's after you purchase. All the order forms I set up, I'll test them, especially after they're already connected to their fulfillment. Sometimes I'll test them first just to make sure a transaction runs. Test them again just to make sure that the fulfillment is correct. I've probably spent the most money on Pedro Deo's products than any of his customers. just because of all the testing I've done to his forms. And you can change prices on forms while you're testing. So you're only spending $2 rather than $20,000. I don't want to test a $20,000 order form. So you can change prices on forms pretty quickly, especially if it's not live. It's the best time. So you really want to be testing those order forms, making sure the content it's saying you're gonna get is what you're getting. Did we forget to remove something? Do we need to add something that's going to add more value? That's really going to help the funnel convert. So yeah, I'm testing them, and then I'm getting the emails, the course access. Are they getting added to the correct course? I know as you graduate above ClickFunnels courses, you're actually trying to utilize better platforms. And so you're actually trying to integrate where your sales are being made with where the course is being delivered. So it's not in the same hub anymore. So you want to make sure, are they getting the correct access? It does become a tiny bit more complicated, but if you have the right tools in place and you're testing it, then it's going to be seamless and your customer won't even notice. Savannah, you got any more fulfillment insight for us?
One thing I would note that I feel like, as operations people, it's like a no duh, but something that you end up kind of having to hall monitor your visionaries is that the more foresight you can have and forethought and lead time to plan these things out, the better this is going to be. And so for fulfillment, for branding, for all of that, like if you're going at 150 miles an hour, obviously these things are going to be easier to let kind of slip. And so fulfillment is a huge one where if you're getting ready to sell something and they're so excited that they want to sell it tomorrow, you can, but if you just have an idea and you want it for sale tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of these things that fall through the cracks because there's just not a lot of time to test things. So just like Taryn said, testing your order forms, testing your funnels, like making sure that these email sequences are kicking off the right way, just giving yourself time to make sure that all of these things are in place is so important, because your customer suffers when you get excited and you just pump out an idea in a couple of days. You know what I mean? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Savannah, maybe give us some thoughts on how a branding guide helps you. I'm just pulling this out of there. I know we're going to discuss this, but that can even help you make sure you're set up for success as you're building things out to be able to adhere to something you've already created.
Absolutely. So, especially in our case where we're working with different brands, and kind of helping with things. And then even within Collab, we have a few different kind of like sub brands. When you are pumping things out, when you're creating your favicon, when you're building your funnel and you're choosing what fonts, what colors, whatever you want to use, it's, there's a lot of things that are suggested to you. There's things that look flashy, but you want to build that customer trust with your brand. You want them to know that they can trust you. You want them to feel like they know you. So having a brand guide that you're listing what fonts that you use for what situations, what colors that you always use. You have a list of logos that you use for what. And then even like ours, we even have like what the smallest we want our logo to be, because that affects readability. So again, that's something that you might not think about. Like for a favicon, you might just be like, well, I'm just going to use my logo, duh. But you put in your logo, and then like if your logo is mostly letters, when it's this big, it's just going to be a little colored blob. So you want to kind of think through these things. So it's nice to have the brand guide. You've already pre-thought all of this out. You already have a resource that you can just be like, okay, I need a favicon, I need a logo, and I need 3 colors. What am I going to do? So you go and you look at your branding guide, and it's like, boom, 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 boom. It's all listed right there. You can plug it in, and you're not having to sit here and you don't have to play graphic designer every time. And a lot of the time when you have your logo and everything made, your graphic designer is going to do this for you. If you are just having a logo, it's a good idea to talk to them about creating you a brand guide and some brand standards, because then even if you have someone who's not a graphic designer that you need to have creating your funnels, because like maybe your team is so small, a lot of people don't have a graphic designer on their team, because that's not something that you necessarily need all the time. So having that framework in place means that you have the power to go and create your own funnels, your own websites, your own sub pages, without necessarily being the most creative person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I love branding guides. They're super helpful. One of the places I'll use them often is when you're setting up emails. When you have a button, you want to make sure the button's the correct color. When you are embedding links, and you can actually change the color. We can just pull up a quick example here. When you've got a link here, you can actually change the color. It's going to default to blue, but maybe you want a different color in there. Maybe you want to change the button so that it adheres to your brand, whatever your brand colors are, or the page you're sending them to, so it's a smooth transition. So I'm constantly looking for colors for those links, for the buttons in emails. The other thing, a good thing to add is standard nomenclature for your company. Maybe this section is always capitalized, or maybe your tagline is always capitalized. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's a few words that are. For Page Rodeo, they've got 100X. The X is always capitalized. We constantly find issues where the X forgot to be capitalized. And it does look bad because all their logos, it's capitalized, all their brands, it's capitalized. And then you're reading through on a button and it's not capitalized. You're like, oh, that does look off. So even just little things like that, like these are their terms. This is how it should be capitalized all the time. This is a font we use. Yeah. So branding guides, huge help for, once again, just making your customers trust you as the expert of what you're trying to present to them. Awesome. We've discussed quite a lot already. Kimberly, do you have any thoughts or questions?
I love this. I did add a question to the Slido, but maybe I'll bring it up here since we're kind of like on this page. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the amount of dust kicked, I know like there's going to be some inevitable things. Like you can do all these quality control checks and there's going to be stuff, right? So I guess what would be the goal to get to? Is it like we're going to have our ducks in a row and our systems in check to where when we go through quality control, we're at like 98%, like perfect, mm-hmm. Like we got a 2% wiggle room, but we know like we're not going to have a whole bunch of customer service hours billed for things not working and this and that. So my question is, what percentage is like the utopia that's still realistic, and then what would be your action steps to, so like if you're not at 2%, if you're at like 50 because you've been running at 150 miles an hour for years and you got to kind of go back and clean some stuff up, what would be kind of some steps that you would recommend as far as like rearview mirror stuff, knowing that you've got like new stuff coming out too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For the first question, you can't please everybody, and everybody should have a little bit of compassion too as they find mistakes. But it's about knocking down the noise. So have you reduced the noise? Are there just random one-offs where people are extremely nitpicky? There might be, but are you at a place where all of your systems are working and there aren't any issues, and things aren't misspelled, and you are happy with how you're being presented? We can't really quantify that with a number, but it's more of like we've taken this to the place where we want to take it. Because you're right, you can spend forever on it, but how much time do you want to spend on it? So you just want to get it to where you want to feel good about it, and you're like, okay, we've touched all the buttons and the links, everything's pretty, everything looks good, this is ready to go. Savannah?
Like if you're just getting like comments on like a typo or something to correct, I feel like that's like probably a win. Obviously you don't want like a lot of that, but like if you get a customer email and they're like, by the way, you spelled professional wrong, like it's supposed to have, you know what I mean? Then I feel like then you're in good shape. For the second one, if you feel like you're only at like 50%, A great way to bring you kind of up to speed, I would say, would be to have like a working meeting. So say you have like everything almost built out and you're feeling pretty good about it. You have your funnel set up. Like what we recently started doing in one of our clients' teams was to try and have like the funnel and everything ready to go, like whatever your offer that you're about to drop, have it ready to go like the week before you're about to try and sell it, like a Monday before, then having all the team come together and you going through the page as a group. So rather than having to like submit to 6 people and like wait for someone to get their edits and then wait for the next person to get their edits and so on, you're all looking at it in real time and editing it in real time. I feel like that's a big time saver, that you can get a lot of eyes on it at once and kind of find little nitpicky things to kind of
Yeah, and I love telling them, the first thing you can tell people too is right off the bat, was this tested all the way through? Just ask that. You might be surprised, because people are working in their own silos and they're like, oh no, I looked at the funnel. Oh no, I looked at the email. I looked at the sales. And you might find nobody's actually testing it all the way through. And then you might need to determine, okay, who's now in charge of testing somebody all the way through? And one thing we found very helpful with some clients was their customer support team. Once things are ready to go live, having all of them go through it, because number one, it gives them good knowledge to what's about to be delivered. And number two, they hear all the things people are constantly reaching out about. So they're more likely to look for those issues. So you're actually solving a couple of points by educating your customer support team and getting their eyes on things they're not actually working on, because they're not the ones building it. So they're actually going to get fresh new eyes on something.
And sometimes that'll even create some cascading questions where they're like, I see that you offered this, like, how is that being delivered? Because in the past, this, like they're going to think about things that they have dealt with from their perspective, that as the person who's just trying to, sell it, who's thought the idea of the product itself, like you might not be thinking about the way that it's given.
Or they start to ask, what even is this? What are you selling? What is this bonus? What is that?
Yeah, having your sales team, if you have a separate sales team, having them go through it too, because they're the ones that are going to be trying to convince. So they're like, you didn't describe this in a way that, that even I know what it is. And so it just makes you, as Taryn said, like when you're taken out of your own silo and other people are looking at it from their perspective, it really kind of shines a light on little holes that can easily be poked through.
Thanks, guys. This makes me so happy. I caught Visionary on vacation proofreading some stuff. I was like, no. Like, hold on, let me go get some people. And then I did present it to some CS folks and our sales team on like 2 sides. And they went through it, and they have a really great brain to like pick up on those inconsistencies. And so their feedback was awesome, because the who is moms and they're all moms, but the writer was not a mom. So it was really good feedback. But yeah, that makes me so happy. And I want to make the proofreading party like a thing. So we have like a team that we can present things to. And so this is really helpful. I'm taking some notes so we can structure our proofreading teams in this way. Love it.
Yeah, that would be fun. And it doesn't even have to be the top people of the team. Like, you don't need to get all your directors together, but like one person from each department coming together for your proofreading party just gives different eyes from different perspectives.
And it's also one of those, it's kind of like a team building exercise. Like, I like that you called it a party, because it does like, it helps everyone feel like seen and heard, where I feel like sometimes like customer experience departments, like it's a tough job. And I feel like because they're not in a lot of those higher level meetings, like giving them tasks like proofreading and stuff, kind of bringing them into the higher level of something like that. It's very validating to feel like, like their voice is important and their work is important. So I really like that you called it a party. I want to call it that from now on.
Yeah, it is fun. You can swap out people. Everybody gets a turn, and yeah, that could help.
I like this better than what we did. I copied and pasted everything into a Google document, from like the quiz to all the like answer pages and every question and every answer. And I just put it all in a Google document, which took a considerable amount of my time. And then I added all the people to the doc, and then they went through it. And then I thought, well, I had a due date, I said, I'll have this by end of day Monday. So I turned it like Monday, 10:30 p.m. And I was like still missing one person. And so that was kind of stinky. But if we're all on the call together, then it's just like 1 hour of everybody's time, and it would be fun. So that's a major upgrade. So we probably put in more time on that than what was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And I've totally done that before too, because it's nice where like people can put in their comments and everything off to the side, so you have like that record of it. But if you do it on a Zoom call, you can record it, so you have that to refer back to if you don't have someone who's taking notes throughout. And yeah, like you said, like there isn't as much accountability because everyone's in their own lane.
We're so close. I almost got a full one out. It'd been a while. She was quiet for a while. That's awesome. Great. So awesome. I'm glad we got to discuss that too. And it sounds like this is something you just started working on. So that's great. We got to have this as a conversation topic today and hear your thoughts and opinions, and here's some ideas. And I hope everybody on Ops Experts Now implements proofreading parties, and maybe we can get party hats. So I think just the last thing on the list is cross-germination. So as you do reach a point where you're not just one company selling one product, but you've now got all these arms reaching out into different areas, or you've got different products in your value ladder, or you've even got different value ladders with different products in those value ladders that might lead to other value ladders. So that's where you start to build things out, almost like a customer journey flow chart. Savannah's doing that for one of our clients now, and that's where you're not really quality controlling on the micro level, but on the macro level, it's okay. Now, how does this customer's journey fit into the bigger picture? What are some areas of the journey that might be confusing? If they've reached the top of this ladder, but then we're asking them to go to the bottom of this ladder, is that actually make sense? Or do we need to pivot there and start doing something else to those customers? So you want to make sure you have a nice flow going with your customers. I don't know if Amelia is quiet yet, but does Savannah have more to say on the customer journey?
She is quiet. So you mean just like the channels that people are receiving their help through, or?
Yeah, just like the cross-germination of different sales. You're trying to sell the same person 10 different things.
So I mean, obviously having one kind of centralized customer experience group is going to help with that a little bit. And then, like how we've talked about in the past, like having like a ticketing system so that you can see someone's previous requests as they're going through. Also where CRMs are a huge piece, because then you can see everything that person has in one spot. Yeah,
Perfect. No, I'm throwing these on you. I only gave you a quick rundown last night. It was a good game face.
I think it might be helpful too. Like we kind of talked about this last week. I was asking our marketing team to please send me like the web of genius behind all of the automations and things that we have in place, because a lot of times we don't know until something's fired off, and CS team is like got a problem. They tell their leader, and then they communicate with this other team, and then they tell their leader, and then their leaders come to me, and I don't know. And it's like, oh, okay. And it's like this whole like thing to fix this one thing. And then sometimes you fix it for one person, like great, it's fixed for everybody. But sometimes you have people coming in from different avenues, and they're going to bump into the same thing, and it's just a matter of time before you find that one. And so maybe like laying the cross-germination up against your automation flow map, just to kind of see like how, if this person is getting this offer in email, should they be getting this thing in text? Like making sure your automations are lining up with what you're trying to do with those value ladders, and so that the communications are consistent with the offers.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that is so nice when things are able to integrate with whatever CRM you choose, because that's where things kind of become a problem, is if you're having to track things in like several different avenues. And so like if you're using a texting service and it's not able to talk with whatever CRM that you're using, and you're having to like manually load in contact lists, and then like someone gets a refund on a product, so they should be removed from that contact list, but then someone doesn't know, or they haven't like re-uploaded, you know what I mean? So there's definitely like ways for things like that to fall through the cracks when things are manual and not automated. Yeah, and I feel like that's also a really good point where org chart comes into play, with cross germination. Like you said, like people come to you. If someone on your customer experience team is skipping their customer experience manager and they're just coming and asking you directly for something, and then so you're helping that one person, but maybe the customer experience manager doesn't know that that's a problem because they went over their head and just straight to you, so they got their problem solved, but maybe it's something that the whole team is experiencing an issue with, and so it's still going to continue to be an issue, and that just like one customer was helped because they're not following org chart specifics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a huge time saver when everyone follows the org chart and knows the org chart and feels confident that their situation is going to get resolved quickly if they do play by the, org chart. So yeah, that's a big one. We have a lot of Slack is so easy to like double, triple tag, I know this person is like going to respond to me really quickly. So I'm going to like, and this person, maybe she's not home out now. I just tag everybody, and then it ends up being like multiple people are involved in something that really was probably could have been handled by one.
It's the beauty and the curse of Slack or like Microsoft Teams or any of those where everyone has instant access to everybody, where you kind of almost need like a hall monitor just to kind of be going through and making sure that people are following your systems, following your forms, because that's a huge way that fulfillment's going to fall through the cracks. Even branding, because if someone wants something done really quick and they're just like, oh, I know that this person knows how to create funnels, and so they just reach out to that person, they're like, hey, I need you to build this for me really quick. Okay, well, that person isn't in conversation with tech, they haven't done the form, they don't know what fulfillment team has planned, like then things are just kind of created off in like a tangent. So that kind of brings it back to the more lead time that you can have in creating your branding, your funnels, your sales pages, the better, so that things like that don't happen. Because Slack and Teams and Voxer all make those kind of requests really too easy. And then mistakes are made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Slack DMs is what gets me, because then nobody else knows that conversation happened. It's not searchable. It's just a little silo between two people, and then somebody else comes into the problem. Or maybe you're talking about a specific customer and the issue was resolved in a DM, and now that's not searchable information.
If you want to get Savannah really frustrated, then you just DM the team and don't use Savannah's systems. And so Savannah doesn't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a problem.
Yeah. I like to tell people no DMs unless it's confidential information, because you can even have
to apologize for those DMs. Darren.
Oh no, you're fine, because I'm like contracted trying to help you solve a pain point with your team.
They're bi-weekly, so
yeah. I'm more of, it's like when you're in team communications where it's like, hey, I need help with this customer, but then what happens is that customer's issue that you just solved is not searchable. So if somebody wants to research this customer in Slack, that information's not going to show up.
That's a great point. So if you do need to get a hold of someone quickly, which is, what we have Slack and Teams for, is so that we have that like fast communication, but just making sure that it is in a public channel, so that even if someone is going over their department manager's head and going straight to you and tagging you in something, even though it's still probably not the right way to ask, at least they're asking in a public forum. And so then hopefully their manager can see it, or you can say, hey, this is a great question for at blah, blah, blah. And then they're brought into that conversation, and then the whole rest of the team can see it. So it's easily correctable versus a DM where it's like, hey, you should take this request somewhere else. And then like, that's just between you two, and you just have to hope that that person does the system that they're supposed to do. So, so yeah, as much as you can deter people from, if it is like Taryn said, in a, you know, you're embedded in a team thing, this is a team conversation, making sure it's public so that at the very least it can be public knowledge so someone can search for it later.
I worked with one team that they had implemented in their company Slack attack time. And so it was every day after 2 p.m. you would ask your Slack questions that you expected immediate answers from. Anything Slacked before then, you'd either have to mark as urgent if you need an urgent reply, or it was wait upon until that person was ready, because what happens is you lose focus on what you're doing. And so, yeah, it might be a 2-minute question, but you just lost 15 minutes of time getting off track of what you're working on and trying to get back on track. So that was a fun issue that they solved. They even had a reminder every day that went off in Slack to all companies, said it's Slack attack time now. And so then the Slacks would start coming and everybody would know it's time for team communication, basically.
How long was Slack attack? Like an hour or?
Well, everybody was in different time zones. So it was just like 2 p.m. Till you're done. It was just like starting at 2 p.m. is Slack attack time. So basically, as people are wrapping up their days, be sure to be checking in for any Slacks that need your attention.
I love that. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So proofreading parties and Slack attack.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad we got to quality control a few processes, because that is also important if you want to discuss that. We did already talk about SOPs, but yes, quality controlling your SOPs. We did mention, having other people go through them is great so that they can determine they're great. And even just your internal, how you're doing things as a team. Are you DMing information that more people should know about? Are you going over people's heads to ask questions to somebody that's not going to help everybody else? So quality control isn't just marketing and funnels and emails and purchases. It encompasses everything. Another area I wanted to mention of quality control is refunds. It's a big one. Are people losing access to what they purchased after they get refunded? It's always one that slips through the cracks of people. Do you have some kind of a refund audit in place? Do you have good refund processes in place to where they no longer have this product they purchased? And then the next level of that would be, if you've reached that spot as a company, is your disputes. You might have your finance team responding to disputes, but then if they lose a dispute and they lose that money, are they communicating back to the team to no longer have access for this product for this person? So it's gaining customers and then losing customers, which unfortunately happens. Your goal is to not lose any customers, but if you do, are you making sure you're keeping what they purchased? It's a big one.